What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to No Motive Podcast, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything within the hemisphere of anime, video games, whatever we're interested at that moment. So,
hey, I'm Chrono. You probably are a little confused as to why I've changed yet again, but this is probably what you're going to see most times.
Hey.
Hello.
So today we're going to be talking about some interesting topics. We got Sony recently just bought Bungie, which is actually some really cool news. We'll touch on that in a little bit because we have some thoughts on that one. We're going to be talking about Lost Ark and then No Man's Sentinel. And then we also are going to try to touch on some anime. And then, it's going to be some really cool stuff.
Can we have a moment with this whole Sony buys Bungie thing? We live in a world where I bought my Xbox originally to play Halo, way back in the day. Yep. And I just looked at our topics and it said Sony buys Bungie. And I'm like, what's happening?
So this
things are all over the place.
It's funny because a lot of people were thinking that Sony bought Bungie in response to Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, which is if you guys didn't know about that, we spoke about that in the last episode. So go watch it because and through the scuffed audio that episode is, go watch it anyway. You have no choice, but a lot of these acquisitions take years in the making. So usually it takes upward anywhere between 7 months to a year for an acquisition to go through, for the proper placements to happen, and that was really it. But Sony this time around has already acquired it. It is part of them. They have already established that this has been a thing now for a long time coming. A lot of people are speculating based on what Bungie and Sony had wound up saying is this isn't for the video game itself. This is for the expanded universe of Destiny products and things of that nature. So what people are beginning to think that they're looking to do is more TV shows and movies, especially since Sony and as well as Microsoft and now Sega are looking to get into Paramount Plus, which is the other streaming platform that you primarily streams Paramount movies and TV shows, and trying to compete with things like Halo. And the Halo show has been around and in the making now for almost just as long as this acquisition has been through. So people are thinking that that's going to be the next step, is they're going to expand the Destiny universe into television and movies.
That'll be interesting to see.
And another thing is, I think not only is it just, Sony acquiring Bungie to help, get more Destiny out there, but I think it also is going to allow Bungie to develop more IPs than just Destiny, because they'll be able to bring in more developers and more crews to just start something fresh.
And that is the thing too, because a lot of the resources at Bungie right now are completely dedicated to Destiny. They haven't yet to build upon a new IP in quite some time. Same thing with Microsoft and having owned the former Bungie subsidiary, which is 343 Studios, which is the people that are in charge of Halo, right? That entire company is also dedicated to specifically Halo. But Bungie has been known for other franchises like Marathon, Myth, another hidden classic called Oni. There's Anime Cop Babe. Great game. If you've ever played
I remember Oni. I remember Oni for sure.
And then a couple of other things. So Bungie already has these list of IPs that are under their name that they could continue to build off of. And I'm sure that at some point Sony's going to want to capitalize on that and their repertoire of skills, because a lot of the original team that worked on those games, maybe less so Halo, still works at Bungie.
So, and Slap, you probably can give me more information about this. I'm curious. Bungie's Destiny Bungie? Yes. Okay. So what does that mean for the future of Destiny, I wonder?
I think if I had to put my 2 cents into it, I really think that it's a lot more than just the game and the IPs specifically. Because Mark listed off a bunch. Right. There's a bunch. It opens up the door for remakes, remasters or revitalization of old IPs. And then it also opens the door with Sony for their picture studio. Because you got to think about, look at Spider-Man, right? Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, yeah, that's
a Sony movie, right? Yeah. It might have rights with Marvel and everything along those lines, but it's still a Sony thing. And if Sony can do something like that with Into the Spider-Verse, which is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion, then a lot of the folks who were fans of Bungie growing up, like you said, you bought an Xbox to play Halo.
Yeah.
I ended Halo and Gears of War. When I picked like that original Gears of War Xbox commercial, I was like, yeah, I need an Xbox. I want to play that game. So like in my mind, I'm thinking if they ever did animated series for like whether it be shows or movies, because we talked about Paramount Plus, they could do that now with more freedom and less stress about the creation of what their next direction is, because they already came out and said that, hey, we're not making it exclusive to PlayStation in regards to Destiny. Just like Phil said, I'm not making it Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox. Like there is an agreement there, like a mutual understanding, not written, of course, but an understanding. Yeah. And I think between the games, movies, and show potential, even though it was a $3.6 billion acquisition, like that's going to pay way more than that in the long run.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I know we've got like the Master Chief, like, you know, showing all that stuff, like all those things they're doing there. It's like, that was the first thing I thought was like Destiny. Like, what happens? I'm a big fan. Like, I mean, he's gone now. I'm sad I haven't really followed a bunch of stuff for like Destiny, but Cade, bro, like, what? Come on, like, there's so much potential for like these amazing characters to get so much more depth, and even maybe a chance. I know we talked about in a previous podcast where there's a lot of Destiny lore that's just gone. Like you can't go back and like play it or anything like that, right?
That's true.
Imagine they like the answer to that is they actually just make it into like some form of a show or movie and advertise it at the start of the game or something. I don't know. Like this is kind of like off the wall sort of stuff or whatever, but like the potential for those sorts of things, it just sounds interesting to me. I think I just wanted any excuse to see Cade again. Honestly, like he was my favorite character.
This is an idea I had like in Destiny 1 year 2, right? When the Taken King was released in Destiny 1, I had the idea in my mind, like I want to play what would be the equivalent of an anthologies mode, where it's like I can play through Zavala's story, I can play through Ikora's story, Shax's story, Saladin's story, like not just an expansion based on them. That's boring. Right. Well, not boring. Obviously, there's cool things that came from that, but you get what I mean. I want to be able to play as them. I know I'm the self-insert pro tag with my Guardian, but
of course,
I want to see their story. And like, there was an Easter egg in the Taken King that was in reference to Master Chief. In one of Cade's stash missions.
Of course,
you'd go in there, and it was like your ghost would be like, "Yeah, I actually tried to revive this guy first. But he said he fought enough. He fought enough wars to last like 1,000 lifetimes and preferred to sleep. So he left them alone. And then like that was supposed to be in reference to Master Chief, because like he's like, yeah, he's tired of fighting. He don't want to do it no more. So
that's dope.
So,
that's super cool.
The ghost is like, okay, I'll go find you then. Like
that is super cool.
I like those tie-ins, and they could do stuff like that with a little more freedom, because that was when Bungie was just like budding with Destiny. Now it's like tried and true. They're trying something new. Witch Queen releases very soon, so hey, I guess they don't have to worry about who's putting the money in their pocket. They have more freedom to do things, and that's the hope right now. At least that's where I want to believe it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this acquisition for them, because Bungie also has a very interesting track record. Speaking of Activision Blizzard, you know, when they were acquired by Activision Blizzard, they basically fell off, you know, from Destiny 1. Like that acquisition hurt them more than it helped, you know, and a lot of people noticed that almost immediately and were like, huh? What is this? This isn't even the same game we were just playing. And like, you can see the improvements that they've been putting on the game, and like with Witch Queen coming out, and I want to say it's next week, right?
I think so. I don't know the exact date. I haven't been following Destiny 2 too closely.
Yeah. So basically, at this point, from recording this episode of the podcast, it's next week.
Yeah.
And
22nd.
That's incredible. And like, if you go to look at the trailers and a lot of the things that they've done so far, it's like, what? This is like, sure, we went on a tangent before, you know, where there's still sunsetting content, and that's, you know, that's not fun. But for anybody who's already been following Destiny, this expansion is hype as hell, and that's cool. Like, this is the first time I've seen anybody hype for Destiny in a long time, besides PvP players, because they're still living in copium land. But
well, like, so I mean, a lot of us have played PSO2. Like Cammy also plays a ton of Destiny. Obviously, anyone in the Destiny community probably knows of him. And he has landed really, really hype for Destiny. He's been a very real person when it comes to like stuff with Destiny, as far as what I've followed. So if he's even hype, I'm like, oh, okay. Looks like Destiny's got some good stuff coming on the way.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the excitement there when it comes to Destiny. So they're gonna have to keep an eye on that. But speaking of like, MMO like games, we have Lost Ark.
Oh my god.
Now the only one of us that hasn't played Lost Ark yet is Slap. So
we'll fix that, don't
worry. And for those of you guys who are still on the fence right now, because maybe you've heard of Lost Ark, maybe you know nothing about it. Lost Ark is a pretty popular MMORPG when it launched in the Korean, Russian, and Japanese servers. It's actually had 3 separate region releases thus far before Amazon was like, okay, listen, every time you've released this game, it's been incredibly popular. Why haven't you released it westward? Let's help that. A lot of that is due to licensing, difference in region structures and whatnot. So it's been interesting to see this game go on. But anyway, it's basically this isometric MMORPG similar to like Diablo-like gameplay, but with MMORPG mechanics that you've seen like in Final Fantasy 14. And because of the level of execution that it requires, like if you've ever played games like League of Legends, or if you've ever played games like Diablo, this honestly is like the MMO that you've been looking for. But don't go into it thinking like, oh, it's just Diablo, I can punch it and win. No, you have to play the game. You are learning the game. And it does really well to like hold your hand and like teach you the mechanics as you're going along, but also not, make it so that you still have to figure stuff out. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, I've had an absolute blast with Lost Ark. Have you done any of the Abyssal Dungeon stuff yet?
I've done the 4 tier 1 Abyssal Dungeons. So basically the way that Lost Ark is structured is in tiers, and currently even in the Korean version or the or any of the versions really, they have 3 tiers, and we launched with the first half of tier 3. So there's a lot of content in the game. We're talking like even if you started playing right now and you hit max item score, you're still playing for 2 months even over that before you're even remotely close to like catching up to anything that that the Korean servers have. You're literally 3 to 4 months out because you have to do it's a completionist's wet dream.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For someone who wants to collect like collectibles, oh my, there's so many things for you to grab. It's insane.
That collectible screen is just daunting. There's so much there.
Yeah, I saw somebody talking about that on Twitter. They're like, it's not a game just for hardcore.
No, it's not.
Grinders. There's a lot of collectible stuff in it.
Yeah, and all the collectibles will give you stats. They'll give you items, and like it's all really awesome progression.
That's the best part. It's all the collectibles are worth. Like everything gives you progression towards like your account itself, and it feels really good to grab everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, and the collectibles are account bound or server bound.
Mm-hmm. Server.
So
region bound.
If you collect it on one, you get onto an alt, you've got all the same bonuses and stuff for having all those collectibles. And if you happen across a collectible that your main hasn't seen, you grab it with your alt, your main's got it now. So it's really nice in that regard.
To kind of give an idea, Lost Ark works in the basis of like a roster, and it's kind of like, it sounds like kind of like account levels, but not exactly. It's a little bit more restricting than account, but essentially like as you're playing through, you're unlocking things for your roster, and as your roster level goes up, it like you unlock other bonuses and things like that. It feels like you're always making some form of a progression when you log into the game, like no matter what you're really doing. So that, and we didn't even touch on the fact that you can sail all around the world, and there's all these different individual islands that have all individual storylines like all over the place. Like if you've looked at a video for Lost Ark, I can tell you that I ended up on an island the other day that just had like a huge rave going on consistently. Like not even no joke. just a huge rave going on or whatever. And I went from there to like an island that was shaped like a heart, and there was like flowers all over the place. And I'm like, okay, the polarizing levels of like areas you can go to in this game are just absolutely ridiculous.
Let's not even talk about the fact that there are 21 different classes currently right now. And like there will be male to female counterparts of every single one of their classes. And then there's an entire section of the game that is basically Warhammer. Anyway, Fear.
The whole thing is Warhammer, because you've got I think we got introduced to 4 different demons throughout the 1 to 50 story, with the first one being the rage demon, because you had that guy there with just a bull's corn. You've got Nurgle, you got Slanesh. The only one you don't have is Tzeentch. And then you show up to one island, there's Space Marines. You're like, what is going on? It's
the best part. Just like polarizing moments. I went from like fantasy, like sieging a castle, to into the forest with a bunch of like little elven people and things like that, shrinking and growing, all kinds of craziness, to a tournament arc. Yeah, there's a tournament arc. It's the best part of every anime. I'm not arguing about this. No, I'm sure.
But a really cool arc. Not gonna lie.
It's actually pretty cool. But it's a tournament arc. And then, exactly what Fear said, to straight up just Warhammer. Like I was in the middle of like mechs and all kinds of craziness. And I was like, what happened? What game am I playing? Like, I will say, like, sometimes your character can feel a little out of place in certain situations. Like in the tournament arc when I was playing my striker, I felt like I was in the right place. But punching a robot felt weird. Like punching and kicking a big robot, I was like, wait, what's going on right
I'm
now?
over here casting like Nuclear's fucking spells and shit, and this motherfucker comes out of nowhere like, I got a giant ass mech, what you gonna do about it? What the fuck? I'm here with my little fucking staff and shit casting spells. You got a giant ass mech. We're on US. So for those of you guys who are wondering, we're on US West for the as far as servers go, and I'm on Mari. I think Chrono is on.
I'm on Voltan.
Voltan. So those are actually the two of the most populated servers on West. But a lot of the gameplay when it comes to like dungeons, setting up raids and stuff like that, like if you have groups of friends that are on different servers, there is a matchmaking system and a server looking system. So you could be like, okay, well, I'm gonna pop up this this dungeon, just look for it in the server search, and we can group up together from there. And it's actually really cool stuff. Like you can't visit their world, but it doesn't matter because the entire auction house anyway is region specific. Right, so
it's like Party Finder and Final Fantasy.
Playing together doesn't require you to be on the same world, just
on the same server, just on the same
region. Exactly. So as long as we're on it's basically exactly like it's basically server groups. If you consider WoW, it's basically what is it? Data centers. If you think Final Fantasy 14, it's more or less a similar situation.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I play on a server with a lot of my friends. I don't have to. I never had to in the slightest, honestly, because when you're out in the open world, you're just doing your own thing. It's when we go into dungeons and all these other things, like that's when you really like play with groups and things like that. And man, I did my first piece of like raid-esque content where like there were mechanics with boss fights, and like if you died, you were just dead for the rest of the fight. And I was blown away. It was, as someone who did like week 1 hardcore progression raiding in Final Fantasy 14, the mechanics weren't super complicated. But they were fun. Like, they were really fun. Like it wasn't hard to learn, but they were super fun to do. Like I don't want to give away. Like, I will say for anyone who's getting into Lost Ark and you're starting out, there is a point where like you're going through the story and you're probably like, I mean, like I get it. It's not that big of a deal. If you're someone who played Final Fantasy 14, think of like a Realm Reborn going into Heaven's Word. You can tell when they stepped up the game when it comes to like the storyline. Because like I went from, the Castle Siege was pretty cool. Like I think for most people, like level 30-ish, like level 26 to like, what top part I'm talking about, right, Mark?
Yeah,
like around level 26 or whatever, when you get that instance is when it like usually grips people into the game itself. For me, it was like, that was good. But like after hitting level cap and then getting into the item range, like was it 460 or something like that?
Yeah,
that storyline. The second dungeon of that storyline, I was like, when did I start playing Kingdom Hearts? What's going on here? We're jumping off of stuff, and I was like, this is insane. I love every minute of this.
Yeah. So basically you can describe the game as like a series of tiers, like I said before. 460 is like mid-tier 1, right? And so that storyline that they introduced then is exactly what he's talking about. It's like you went from the entire game so far and he's like, it's no big deal, I guess. Like it's good or something. And, and then he started going on, but the moment you hit 460, the story and the level of like cinematic art style behind all the dungeons, even the normal versions or like the story versions of those dungeons, not even the abyssal versions of those dungeons, are like, hey, let's go, bro. We made a video game. Play this shit. It's good. And you're like, hello, when did you step up quality like here or something? And I'm like, I don't understand how the fuck you just got there.
It's cool, it's man. Crazy. It's super fun. I know there's a lot of people that have like this. I mean, I'm going to spell it really quickly because this is something that throws on the community all the time or whatever. People have the concept it's lost art, pay to win, blah, 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 blah. It's not predatory. Like that's the biggest thing that I think you should worry about. Like the game, you have not, like, realistically speaking, actually, it's been so amazing that people who do want to whale in the game have made it substantially easier for free to play. Like by far. Like so, the crystal system is actually amazing, and I have made money like without spending anything in Lost Ark because of the way their systems actually work in the game currently right now, and it's super super dope. So
yeah, and another thing is like so like once you right now, and I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm sure it's going to be an indefinite thing for long term. Because they do have what's called a knowledge transfer, which can boost your character further. But you get what's called once you hit level 50 and you hit a certain point of the story, you get a Vern Power Pass, which is basically you've completed all of the entire story up to 302 side quests and everything for that character. And it's really interesting, like an interesting mechanic there. And you can do that pretty much through any of your characters, depending on where you've progressed. But one of the cool things is that each alternate character that you have has most of its own weekly lockout for dungeons, guardian raids, abyssal dungeons, actual raids. Like it has a weekly lockout. So you can take some of the tradable resources from that alternate character and like transfer them to another character to boost that one up further through progression without having to spend any sort of money whatsoever. So there's reasons to continue like staggering like all your alt progression, and it's dope.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I know one thing that has gotten me that I'm really like jazzed to play this game is their dev team. That's a big thing for me when it comes to games. How are the devs reacting to player feedback? How do the devs react to like questions that are asked? And they've just been very straightforward. Like no punches pulled. They've been like, there's certain systems in the game that we thought were, a bit overbearing on the players. Players said, we don't want this. We pulled it out. Realistically, guys, that's going to lose us like 17% of our actual like value that we make off of the game itself. But we did it because it's beneficial. First off, I don't know what other dev team has the balls to tell you exactly how much they would lose from pulling something out of their game. I feel like that's kind of dope. But on top of that, they've just been very straightforward. People ask flat out, I was like, hey, is this game like pay to win? Can I pay for progression? They're like, there are moments where you can actually pay for some progression. Yes. But you don't have to. You don't are required to, and it's not pushed into the game where you're locked behind it, which I think is super dope. Honestly, like it's one of those things that you look at when you play a free to play game. It's like either sub games or free games, and I can tell you from someone who's played a lot of Korean MMOs and a lot of those games itself, this one I'm actually very excited to get into, and it's been a lot of fun. So
yeah, and I think like eventually it's going to be. You are going to see a dip in playership. You're going to see a lot of people, begin to blame Amazon because Amazon is the publishers behind it. But it's very much so in Smilegate's court. And for those of you guys who are unaware of like Smilegate's track record, even if for whatever reason they can't launch, or continue developing Lost Ark, or for whatever reason, or they need to go self-published, they can. They make money through Crossfire, which was the largest first-person shooter in the world that you've never heard of, by the way, right? It was literally the most played first-person shooter, period. They developed that. They then also they have a gacha game by the name of Epic 7. That is their game. Waifus galore, and that game has only gotten better. I stopped playing it, but they continue adding shit that's just like beneficial to their game. And I'm like, why didn't you do that when was I playing?
Yeah, no, like, they have a really good track record, like straight up. That's, and matters.
And they just launched Crossfire X into the West, being a Microsoft exclusive title on the Xbox, but have plans to expand onto PC and other platforms depending on the success that it has on Xbox. Which, again, if they continue to build their track record, everybody's gonna be like, Smilegate, what are you doing? And all of their games, for, save for the gacha game that is Epic 7, right, is cosmetic only systems for the most part. Like, that is 90% of their monetization for every game that they've created, which is crazy to me. Because the only other company that I can even think of that does that is Good Grind Games or whatever, from Path of Exile.
Oh, GG. Yeah. I mean, they have some other stuff in there, but yeah, it's mostly just cosmetics, primarily.
So that's, Lost Ark. A lot of people are like, you're just jumping on the hype train, but like, I want to say that it has a hype train because it's actually a good game, and like that to me is shocking. Like,
they crushed projections as far as what they thought they were going to get. Like, I know at peak, I'm not sure what it is right now, but we saw it was like 1.3 million players on Steam, which is nuts. It still had 1.1 million after 24 hours on Valentine's Day, by the way, which is still insane to me. And they have been working on like server stuff because of how crazy busy it's been.
So at the time of recording this episode for the podcast, there are still 1 million players on the game.
There's still over a mil. That's insane.
Right.
I know people were like, they're not even gonna break 1 million. Like,
yeah, the only game that is above them now is PlayerUnknown's Battleground, which has a crazy record of 3 million active players.
Wow, PUBG. That's crazy.
Right. That is the crazy thing. Like, they've beat every other game that you can think of. The only other game that they were looking to beat before that was Cyberpunk 2077, and they crushed that.
Oh, absolutely. That's just by far. And I will say, like, I mean, even what was it, the launch of the game itself, like, from someone who plays, I'll admit it, I'm addicted to MMOs. I play them all the time. It's a good and a bad thing depending on who you ask. But because we played a lot of MMO launches, like, Lost Arks went pretty okay. I mean, some of our Eastern listeners might be like, or European listeners might be like, okay, you want to talk about this? Listen, I know EU's been down a lot. I'm sorry. A lot of the EU guys have been like fiending for Lost Ark hardcore. So the EU servers have been slammed to the point I think they're considering splitting EU into two halves.
I haven't heard about that, but they did just recently add a server today. But the thing, every single EU server, every single one, and they keep adding more, has 13,000 plus queues.
Mm-hmm. Someone put a record 60,000 in queue. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? Just turn the game off. You're not playing today. Like, go to bed. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy. But like, it's just, that's the thing, is Lost Ark's just been fun. It's not like it's forced. It's not like they have to pay me. It's just been a fun game to play. So like, it's one of those times where like sometimes you want to like not talk about things in a negative light at all because you don't want to like scare people away or whatever. Like, I've been totally fine with talking about Lost Ark in the most real way possible because like at the end of the day, I just had fun playing the game. And if you can pull people in with the game just being good in a lot of situations, not a lot else matters.
Yeah, like
game being good first matters.
Shit, but goddamn, is the rest of the game great?
Yeah, like as long as game is good, you get away with a lot of things. Honestly, like that's what a lot of people tend to miss in games. It's like I actually was like the conversation people had about like Final Fantasy 14 and WoW for the longest time when they were like, oh, well, Final Fantasy 14 has a cash shop. I was like, yeah, but Final Fantasy 14 is also good. Like that's the major difference is like players are gonna let things get away with a lot of stuff if you have a good game as well. It's when the game isn't what the players are looking for and then also has these things, they're gonna get you about the other getting on you about the other things as well.
Yeah, and like, you know, we play a lot of like Phantasy Star Online, Chrono and I, And one of the big things about that game is like that is also it has the potential to be a good game. And I've more specifically, I think than anybody else, has been incredibly critical on the game, right? But that's because I'm not coming from a place where I don't like this game. I'm critical behind the game because I love it, right? And it's the same thing with everything else. It's like I love the entire franchise. I grew up with the fucking franchise, for crying out loud. Like it's the reason I'm even playing the game. And like I see the potential of the game and like the directions that they're going and the decisions that they make, and I'm like, you're improving the game, but sometimes you make some stupid calls.
Yeah, no, I told people multiple times, the dev teams don't think like players do. I'm sorry, they don't. Like people think that like, oh, they decided this because they just want to mess things up. I'm like, no, they didn't think of what we thought of. Like their mind isn't in the market immediately. Their mind isn't in on like the small power like bonuses because they're not thinking the same way that we do. A lot of times it takes us saying, hey, look, by the way, you did this. You may not realize you did this, but you did this. Please change that. Like, please fix it because it's not a thing. Like, I won't say every game is like this. There are some dev teams that like play their game and they're insanely great at the game itself, but like that's not everywhere. And I know you mentioned PS2 having potential. I don't think you've done it yet. I think you mentioned on Twitter you haven't actually fought the new boss. It's really good.
Oh, Top's gone.
Oh,
am I?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Coming back.
We lost him.
Oh no. Help.
There he is.
Accidentally closed the window.
You came back with audio, by the way.
There we go. I fixed it.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
But yeah,
yeah,
so
like
there's a lot of cool things. And Lost Ark, it's just a good game. So
yeah, that's the most important thing. Yeah. Game just good. It's such a simple thing.
Game is very good.
Game just works.
It just works.
Okay, Todd.
I know. All right, listen. First off, Todd doesn't even get to say that. Okay, I played his games. Game does not work. But like, it's so undervalued. How much nowadays, like, just having a game that works on launch is crazy. Like, you play the game, it's like, oh, hey, I get to play game as intended. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they've even fixed a lot of the things that could have considered the game to be pay to win. You know, with the way that they launched, and like it's really nice to see. It's really nice to see an MMO launch with like actual success.
Yeah, that's fantastic because a lot of people are like, it's gonna come out, it'll be interesting, and then it's gonna like fade into nothing. And it's like, I hope it doesn't. I just want like new MMOs. It's difficult. And people, I think people undersell that shit.
What was the snafu though with a while ago, or not a while ago, but like with the legendary edition or whatever, the 3 days, I heard people were losing their characters.
So the servers come up when this is like, we had the head start, right? Like we had the founders pack, which gave you a head start to play, right? You started on, I think, was it Tuesday? I think, Mark? Yeah, it was a Tuesday. We started on Tuesday and we're playing, right? And then like they bring the servers down for the full launch on Friday, I believe.
Yep.
And we're waiting for servers to come up, and then the delay servers going up. We're like, all right, whatever, delay servers going up. And then we're waiting for servers to come up, and they finally come up, and everyone logs in, and no one has any characters on any of the servers. Yeah, like they're just not there anymore. And we're like,
because all of the servers that were previously available to the people had at start were locked were locked in general. So no one could play on the servers that they were playing on. And they were like, yeah, I think we locked things a little bit too hard. Hold on, we'll fix that right now. None of your characters are lost, by the way. But
it was just like there were no characters anywhere. It said characters 0. And everyone's like, bro, I just played for 3 days. What do you mean characters 0? Like some people who like rush the content or whatever, like people who have like played it before in other regions, like in 3 days, they're in tier 2. Like they're in the next tier of content already. So they're like, what do you mean there are no character data? And everyone lost it, primarily because there was like a fake tweet going around that it was like a fake Lost Ark tweet that was like, because of everyone's complaining about the servers and everything else, we've deleted everything, so you have to start fresh with all the new players. And then immediately they're like, this tweet aged poorly. Like, everyone's like, this tweet aged really poorly. But yeah, no, it was a crazy time. And then Lost Ark immediately tweets out like, your characters aren't gone, by the way. Everything's fine. Relax. We're fixing it. So
yeah, it's just they just got locked a little bit too hard. That was all. It was fun. It was a fun little funny situation that they had there.
Yeah, for sure. It was a good time. I'm very happy with what I've seen from Lost Ark, and I'm hopeful for other games as well. Yeah. I'm still thinking about Blue Protocol in the back of my mind. Like,
oh my god,
please be good.
I need that game to be good, but only because it's an anime MMORPG, right? We need a good anime MMORPG. If for whatever reason Sega doesn't pull their head out of their ass, because I think they will. I really do think they will.
I think after you do the new boss fight, you're gonna start to see that they're getting it. And I saw your video talking about the article or whatever, and I had a few, like, I'm gonna talk about that another time. They're starting to, but they keep kicking themselves as they go along.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
I feel like they have the idea, but they have to do it. Like, they have the idea, but they have to do it. Like, and I guess, I mean, it's like a small heads up or whatever, but like for people who are curious, they're the next tier of weapons. They were talking about having them be bound to, like, when you get them, right? Like, you can only, like, when you get them, you can't sell them, which is a good and bad thing.
It's good a bad if thing. It's a craftable system, the same way we had back in base Booster 2. It's bad if it's RNG based, because it's like, so Lost Ark, since we're still on this topic, has a progression system where once you hit 302, which is you finish the story of tier 1, you get a chest that gives you 302 gear. You then use that gear to then hone, which is like enhancing in any other MMO. You hone that gear and you increase the plussing on that gear, right? It goes from 1 to plus 20, depending on the actual gear set that you're currently using. You don't want to go on tier 1. You don't want to go above plus 15, by the way, just in case anybody's curious. But anyway, so you have this gear, this gear set, and it's really awesome stuff, right? But when you're honing, it's an RNG system. That is okay, because those resources just keep you playing the game. You can create an alternate character to get more of those resources, trade them to your main. I don't mind enhancing and failing, but if I can't even get the fucking weapon in the first place, come on, bro.
And it's important from the perspective of, and this is something that NGS has a fallacy, everything is sellable. And you ask yourself the question, when is it worth? When does it become worth to make my upgrades? When is it worth to do something? And I know this is going to depreciate in value. And that's a constant issue that people have. When you have a game where your upgrades are completely in the market, like everything you do, like your entire weapon is there, you ask yourself the question, like, I know I'm going to lose money on this eventually. When does it matter to me? And having a weapon that's just like, you craft it and you build it up over time, and you can only, like, you can't do anything with it afterwards, makes your power matter. Like, more people are going to start making those builds, and they're going to push themselves up higher. And it actually makes for an overall better gaming experience, because everyone slowly is getting stronger at some point, which does matter when you play in groups. I will tell you, as someone who does, like, who likes to have the meme of, I don't care who comes with me, I'll carry everyone. It matters, and you can see a sizable difference. Trust me.
Yeah, and that's just one of the things that every MMO should at least take heed on. And I think that's another thing that Lost Ark does incredibly well, is like, you will get gear, and it will guarantee that you get this gear. It's just a matter of how long will it take you to upgrade this gear. That's it. That's the only time frame that you have. You are just as strong as everybody else. The two determining factors are skill and time.
Yeah. Done. And for the record, RNG does have like a a pity system of sorts. Like, you do start to get more bonuses as you fail. So like, they have built in things for it not to be terrible. I don't want to harp the Lost Ark thing, because I could talk about this all day, honestly. But like, there are systems put in place. Like, again, it is a Korean MMO, so like, if you don't like grinding, that probably isn't for you. If you're not a fan of the isometric cameras, probably not for you. But like, I've always said, gameplay is something that can carry a game for me very, very far. If I'm having fun while I'm fighting stuff, I just want to fight more stuff. It's very basic. It's very dumb. It's very animalistic, but I'll fight hordes of enemies if it's fun to do it. Like, that's just the cool thing for me to do in video games. And Lost Ark has a lot of that, and it's done very well. I have a good time.
And another thing that's really nice about the Lost Ark upgrade system is the first piece of 302 gear that you get may not be the best, but you can start immediately upgrading that and wait for the actual drop with like the optimized stats to come later, and then just transfer all of that upgrade and all of the resources that you put towards that first one gets automatically transferred to the other one with just a silver cost. So it's very easy to, you can continue progressing with suboptimal gear while you try and work on optimal gear, keeping your main stats, up to par with everyone else in your group.
Yeah,
fun word to say. Suboptimal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too, and it's one of the situations where I will give them credit as far as like nothing feels super terrible to play. Nothing feels like you're going to be absolutely worthless or useless in endgame, and that's not an easy thing to do.
And
Final Fantasy 14 does it, and not a lot of other games do.
And just to wrap up this conversation real quick, because we do still want to talk about some No Man's Sky and some anime real quick. One of the really cool things behind Lost Ark is that none of these skills or buffs are snapshotted. So basically, like if you play Final Fantasy 14 and you cast a skill, if you're fully buffed, that skill when it lands will have all of the buffs that is already on you. It doesn't matter if they fall off or not. But Lost Ark adds that extra little bit of skill involved, where if it'll only take the damage as you're buffed when it hits the enemy. So for whatever reason, when your spell hasn't hit the enemy yet and then you get buffed, your then damage will then increase at that moment that you've been buffed and then hits the enemy. It's a dynamic system. It's dynamic combat, which is really, really cool and well underappreciated in games nowadays.
He says because he's the sorceress, by the way, that just gets to keep casting from wherever. Meanwhile, I'm running in circles behind the guy.
I feel like mostly that falls down to
I still have positionals,
the type of glam. It's the type of game at the end of the day, because not every game works with that. Like imagine Final Fantasy, if it tried to do that, it wouldn't work.
It would be busted. It would be so broken.
I think in some cases it can, like with Black Mages would be able to benefit from some dynamic spellcasting, to be honest with you, or dynamic buffs.
I feel like they're the only ones though, because they're the only ones that don't really have to worry about like a self buff. Like that would be awful for a class like Gunbreaker, where my buff doesn't even last my entire burst rotation.
True.
So like having to think about where to put it instead, like it's already weird in its spot as it is. But yeah, no, like I said, we could talk about Lost Ark forever. I know I'm going to do content on it at some point. So like, I'm sure Mark will probably do something here or there. So
we'll see. But anyway, so we have No Man's Sky Sentinel is the other thing that was just recently announced. Man, speaking of games that have just improved, man.
Yeah. No Man's Sky went from a meme of No Man's nothing, like No Man's Sky, no joke, there's nothing there, to like actually turning a game around, which is, I think, the only game that's really done it in that level has been Final Fantasy 14. Like, I hate to keep harping on it, but like,
and I feel like their updates are free, bud.
Yeah, that's the crazy part, is all of it's free. I mean, they did kind of like, I don't want to like, throw shade, but like they did kind of like lie to a lot of people at the start. They got there eventually. They got there eventually, but like I'm looking at No Man's Sky. This is coming from someone who hasn't played any No Man's Sky, like straight up. I
haven't actually played it either.
This all looks really cool. Like they had me at mechs, bro.
so they're more their most recent update and crew has a combat overhaul, so there's the gunplay is actually a lot better. They have gunplay when it comes to their flying, which is something that they had before, but it feels better now. They have new enemies, so each of the planets that you can go over will have now new types of enemies that you've never seen before. So even if you visited a planet before, you might see something new on that planet. A lot of the enemies now have improved AI, so they're just smarter. It's making everything that was deadly before even deadlier now. You have new lore, you have new missions. You can still beat the game, but now there's no even point. You just continue exploring. Don't beat the game yet. You have expeditions where basically you can continue looking at the biology behind the planet itself, or even the wildlife that you want to finding. They have all new weapons, new craftable weapons as well, and each weapon plays incredibly differently, kind of like Destiny or any of the other games you might be familiar with when it comes to a lot of the gunplay. A lot of older weapons were then updated to have incredibly new animations and visual effects, which is really cool. One of the big things that they also advertised was active camo. Your character basically turns invisible, which is to me, I don't care, but that's kind of cool, I guess.
It's kind of
dope. You actually have a Sentinel headquarters now, which is basically like your little group. You have an actual base that you can take and explore, and it's interesting stuff. And then you have a buildable mech AI, which is something that Chrono had just mentioned, which is you have this AI that you can either have it make it autopilot. You can have it, set certain like wildlife systems. Like, do I want to scan this or do I want to scan this? You basically can create the mech of your dreams in No Man's Sky. Crazy fucking stuff, man.
That's, I mean, for a space game, it felt weird not having any robots. I mean, robots, yeah, kind of, but like real big robots, and now they have big robots, and I feel like it's kind of basic, but it sounds cool.
Yeah. And that's a lot of like No Man's Sky. Like, if you were looking for the like, if you're a sci-fi fan like I am, then yeah, that game is for you. But now before the podcast, because we're running a little bit low on time here, we were talking about anime, and there's a tangent that I want Slap to go on, which is Sabakoi Bisco. Just go on, just go.
Well, before he does the tangent, just I want everyone to like open up your phone or like open up like a tab or something like that. I want you to look up the anime. It's Sabakoi Bisco. Like, look it up and look at the character. Now Slap, explain it, because I want you guys to have the same feeling that I had while he was explaining it to me.
Bro, so imagine a post-apocalyptic world where there's a whole new disease. It's rust, right? Rust carries on the wind and gets people sick. And everyone's asking where the hell this rust comes from. So in comes mushrooms, right? So we have Bisco, who's a mushroom tender, and everybody thinks him and his mushrooms are causing this rust. Mushrooms cause rust. But that's what people want them to think. This guy's out here looking for a mushroom called the Rust Eater to cure the rust. And he's actually a good guy. Now, when you look at him, you're like, yeah, he's unhinged, possibly feral, might smell bad, but he's not. He's probably one of the most interesting characters in like any recent anime I've seen. I described him earlier as like unhinged Bakugo energy with like Deku level reasoning, because that's where he lands on the spectrum for me. He's just completely over the top, really loud, really obnoxious, but he's a good dude. And it's hard to believe looking at the images of like the promotional material for the anime, but watch it, read it, and go into it understanding that the guy who wrote it really likes bugs and mushrooms. And then let that just broaden your mind and enjoy it, because I am right now. It's on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. I looked at it, and that is not what I thought the actual plot was when I looked at that anime. I was like, "Oh, this character looks dope. This is pretty edgy. I like this. This looks really cool."
Right, he's got a bow and arrow that when it lands, explodes into mushrooms. Like, that's like, he makes these arrowheads with this like solution of like mushroom spores and seeds, and when he shoots the bow and it connects, it's just mushrooms just fucking explode. And he's using them to do silly things like, oh, there's a girl riding on his crab. Yeah, he has got a crab, like a huge crab mount thing. She's riding on the crab, boom, shoots a mushroom underneath her ass, launches her into the fucking air, get her out of my seat. Like, it's the weirdest thing, but it's really fun. It's really cool. It's a very fun watch. I highly recommend.
Mushroom crabs, and I'm sorry, mushroom arrows and crab mounts. Yeah, that's just
flying blowfish in one of the most recent episodes. Like, there's a lot of weird shit going on, but it's really cool.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys had the same reaction that I did when I looked at that, because I was like, no, that's not what I thought that was at all. Like, when you described the character, it reminded me specifically of a specific episode when you mentioned Bakugo. Reminded me of the episode where of My Hero, where they all go to Todoroki's house and like have dinner with with his like family or whatever. Oh. And Bakugo is yelling about the food, and he makes all the sense in the world, but he's still screaming like in the weirdest way, talking about like, you're gonna make this taste bad, or I need the recipe to this, or that sounds great. But he's still yelling and explosive like Bakugo usually is, and it's hilarious to me.
That's true. Like, his entire personality is, I really love this, Deku, but I'm gonna need you to give me the recipe. What?
It doesn't make any sense. He's like, literally, actually, like in my mind, when he mentioned it, what I saw was him getting into the car and screaming at Todoroki, "Make sure to get me the recipe," for whatever. And I was like, bro, relax, like, calm down. It's so good. So yeah, I'm definitely going to take a look at this because I need some more anime, dude.
It's really good, man. And it's I highly recommend. I've been trying to broaden my horizons. Like if anything just even looks remotely interesting, I'll give it a shot now. Yeah, between this Demon Slayer, I recently watched the rest of 86, which is really fun because we were talking about like mech for a little bit. Fun random tangent. When someone mentions mech in regards to video games, what's the one game you think of first?
Chrome Hounds.
Armored Core, 100%.
Armored Core. What was you, Mark?
Chrome Hounds.
Zone of the Enders.
Oh, that's right.
Everyone's got a game that they immediately think about based on trying out. When you think about anime, what's the mech anime that immediately comes to mind for you?
Gundam 00.
I was gonna say Gundam anything, honestly.
Yeah.
Is that Gundam? Gundam Wing or Gurren Lagann for me, but like
Gurren Lagann, it's a good one, yeah.
Right. Now, I had a dream the other day that Hideo Kojima, who like Konami Zone of the Enders, was like, hey Gundam, let's have a baby. And then they made a mech game that also had an anime released alongside of it.
Stop it.
And I died.
I died. No, that's a nightmare.
I want the podcast to be monetized, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But holy crap, that would be amazing. Like that was one thing I always said about like Zone of the Enders was, again, I'm all about kind of gameplay. Zone of the Enders, like at the time when I played it, I wasn't super big on story. I couldn't really get big on story, but like the gameplay, like what it felt like to play as the actual mechs in Zone of the Enders, like the orbital frames, felt awesome.
It was really cool.
It was super dope. I mean, now going back and playing it again, my favorite part about Zone of the Enders is the music, by the way, because it sets the atmosphere so incredibly well.
There's one part of Zone of the Enders that, like, as a kid, right? I still wonder how the hell I beat it as an adult. Basically, there was a level in Zone of the Enders 1 where you lose your orbital frame, and you're like, oh shit, whatever. So you have to take over another like weaker orbital frame, and it basically becomes the stealth mission. And
yeah, what was the basic thing that like the slow beige looking one thing?
Yeah, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell did I do as a child? Like I was young, I was baby, I had no skill in game. How did I do this?
that was I moved super slow and took all of my time in the world to do everything because I was afraid IRL that I was gonna get caught. Like you guys remember back in the day, like if you play a game like jump scares that aren't really jump scares, but like you felt like you were playing the video game, like you were there or whatever, and you get grabbed by something and you're like, ah, and you freak out. Like
I'm just into it.
That was me, dude.
Yeah.
I still get that way sometimes. Like if it's a game like that really intrigues me, I'm just like, I'm gaming, bro. Gamers gaming, and
gamers game, dude. Gamers rise up.
And if somebody like even taps me, I'm like, who the hell are you? Why are you existing?
Adder does
You
this shit
almost
to me,
died.
Dude. I could be just nose to the grindstone, literally anything. What am I doing? I'm reading a line of dialogue. It might even be a funny joke. She ninjas in, touches my shoulder, and I leave my skin. Like she's
like, I just died.
It doesn't matter what it is, but I'm also a bitch. Like there's also that. Like I can't play scary games. Like truthfully, I love them to death. I'll play the shit out of them. I say I can't play them, but what I mean is I can't play them with a straight face because I will lose my shit at some point. But
you're talking to a coward, bro. I'm good at fighting when I have power.
GTFO, we play that whenever. I mean, obviously not this month. There's a lot of shit going on this month,
but when time slows down and I actually have enough time to finish everything, like my brain's running a mile a minute right now, thinking, oh no, I've got PSO2. Oh no, I've also got Lost Ark still. I got to finish like
oh wait, we got Elden Ring. Oh wait, there's Strangers in Paradise coming out soon. Oh wait,
Elden Ring, dude. Like I know for everyone else, like you have what was the other game you mentioned too? We said Strangers in Paradise. Was that
Horizon Zero Dawn?
That's it. Yeah, Horizon. I was like,
Horizon Forbidden West, Strangers in Paradise, which is the Final Fantasy 1 like reimagine, which is cool because I just recently played Final Fantasy. Did you know that those characters didn't have names, by the way?
No.
Did you know that?
In Final Fantasy 1? Yeah.
In Final Fantasy 1, when, you know, Big Daddy Sakaguchi was like, this is it, we're going under. And he made the game was like literally the Final Fantasy of the studio. They didn't give the characters names, like none of them, not a single one. They're all self-insert pro tags. And then they didn't get names until the second one, leading off with Furion and his group. And I was like, it's cool as fucking shit. You fight chaos. I'm here to kill chaos. But I'm ready for Strangers in Paradise because I feel like it's going to be a DMC meme.
I forgot.
With a Final Fantasy twist.
You see, the lovely thing that I think is like a lot of people are like, it's DMC. Like, okay, I got you. But wait a minute. It's 3-player co-op, also class system.
Yeah, that's what gets me. Is like 3-player co-op plus class system. They've got me. Like you immediately that was
great.
The main character walks away. Dude, with headphones in, I'm like, you got like it's over. What am I supposed to do, dude? It doesn't matter what music plays. You can't walk away from that level of badass. Like you can't. It doesn't matter. Dude's so basic. He just wants to fight stuff. Again, monkey smash. Like it's all I'm there for.
He's a murder hobo of like the highest caliber, and I'm okay with that.
So I
think it's gonna be a meme, but I think it's gonna be fun. Like
I think it's the best kind of meme.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's just gonna be like all for the laughs for the most part, but there's gonna be genuine moments where you're just like, bro, this is the sickest game ever. Like I know that's gonna happen because it happens every fucking time I talk shit about a game. The moment I open my mouth to say this game sucks without playing it, it ends up being the best shit I've ever touched for like the whole 2 weeks that I'm on it. I'm like, Jesus, okay.
And like, we were talking about it before the podcast because we started talking about the Ultimate Love Song Collection commercials, right? He could literally be walking away playing that in his headphones and it's still badass, bro.
It doesn't matter. It's the way he carries himself. And like that game has it ticks the boxes, dude. Like it has the badass, it has like I'm not sure the level of customization, but like I've seen the characters have different outfits. You've got different classes. The multiplayer aspect cannot be understated. Like it's cool to just be damage and kill stuff in front of you. It's even cooler to think, dude, I don't have to think about that. I've got my buddy here who's going to support and back me up and do something, or to be that friend that's like, dude, I got my friend that's going all in on damage. I'm gonna do as much as I possibly can, but I'm also to keep us all alive. Like,
yeah, like you can be a white mage, you can be a paladin, you could be like
amazing.
I'm gonna be playing with a couple of buddies of mine, and I know for a fact one of them is gonna be a dragoon. I'm gonna be a void knight, and then one of them is gonna be a ninja, and we're gonna cover everything. We're just gonna be like, we're all damage hobos, but we all can counter shit, and it's great.
Exactly. Like I'm looking forward to it. It's right around my birthday too. Let's go, dude.
Yeah, that's bog.
Speaking of that, so there's this article where during the filming of RoboCop, the actor who had to film the warehouse shooting scene, just to make himself more comfortable in the RoboCop outfit, he had headphones in. So when he's filming that scene, he's listening to a song, and that song is Red Rain. And if you just search that on YouTube, and it is pretty great.
You'd be surprised how much like music can just add to something. Like you guys, I'm sure you guys all saw the memes that popped up like after that scene that they show where he just says "shut up" and like puts the headphones in and walks away. like that. After that meme, people put so many different pieces of music in place of that like I could not tell what the original was. Like I legitimately couldn't for a bit. I was like, wait, is this actually the scene? Like what's going on? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be good. I think that entire game is gonna be awesome, and there will be more memes, but I cannot wait. I legitimately cannot wait.
I'm
speaking of mechs, which is where we went down that fucking travesty.
Inch and a half. Let's go.
So yeah, speaking of mechs, it's like you're pretty much a flesh mech, right? And you're just like a brain piloting a meat suit, which is kind of like Attack on Titan, which is also fucking dope.
Can we have Slab the award for like the most ambitious transitions of all time? Like, let's go, dude.
I tried to explain. Like, hold on. Explain Attack on Titan to someone who's never heard of it or seen it to the best of your ability, right?
I've never said you're wrong.
So, yeah, like specifically the shifters, the Titan shifters, when they they're putting on a mech. They're jumping in a suit, right?
It's
They're
a flesh
basically the
suit,
Power
like,
Rangers or some shit, but you know, they're
yeah.
special, whatever. So yeah, thinking about like Attack on Titan and all that stuff, I was curious if anybody is all caught up, because like the most recent episode
Mhm.
is really big in regards to like, oh yeah, Aaron's unhinged.
Yeah, has everyone caught up
Nobody
first
know
off?
that. No, I didn't
I
know that, but
I'm
you know,
so far behind on Attack on Titan
dude,
that
It's really good. Like so I appreciate what they're doing at the moment, because I like anime that do like that, like they decide to do this, where a character becomes what's necessary, not what people want, but what is needed to make, like, to get something to happen that needs to happen in the world. I mean, like, I'm very minor. I'm going to say very minor in the situation itself, because it's very obvious for people who are actually like looking at anything Attack on Titan related. If anyone wants like zero Attack on Titan spoilers, give yourself a second or two. But I love when a character becomes the necessary villain, not like a bad guy, but becomes the necessary villain, what's needed for things to actually work out the proper way. And that is, in my opinion, exactly what Aaron is. And it's fucking awesome.
I agree.
And that is all I'm going to say about it.
This is the definition of art. Ready? I introduce you to a theme, and I show you the build and the setup for the theme. I even show you how we arrive at the conclusion that this is the theme. And then I show you every possible answer and outcome that can stem from the theme. And then I propose a question. And you see each answer not be what you're looking for systematically until you arrive at the last possible answer. And Aaron is giving you that answer, but you don't like it, but you've seen every other attempt at answering that same question to the theme fail systematically. Nothing has worked, and you've officially arrived at the last resort. And that is the character they've built for Aaron.
Yep.
In this season. And you're like, do I feel good about this or do I feel bad about this? Because there is no other answer and he hasn't gotten there. And you can sit there as the viewer and say, well, couldn't they just, well, no, we've seen that in like this season, or maybe they could, well, we saw that in this part of that season. And you're like, shit, there really is nothing left for him to do. This is it. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's basically it. As you go through it, you can think to yourself, that didn't work. That doesn't work. This sucks, but nothing else works. Like,
there's a lot
nothing else works.
There's a lot they showed you,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of implications to a lot of things. And it's just like, sure, there could have been like one or two things different, but the ultimate outcome, that same proposed question, is like it ended with one of the seasons where Aaron's like, so if I kill everybody over there, we're safe, right? Yeah, now carry that for an entire fucking season and answer it in every possible way and see what happens when you don't, when you attempt to, when you think about it, when you potentially succeed, when you fail, and when you've exhausted all other options. And that's where we are right now. And you're like, oh shit. So what do you do?
That's the best way to describe it. Honestly, like, I couldn't have said it any better. Like, I even forgot about that scene. Like, he's like, if we kill everyone over there, we're safe, right? That holds a lot more weight now.
Oh yeah,
watching the current thing, and it's like, oh, it's not. I promise you, you might think it's a spoiler. It's not even close. You're not good. If you haven't seen the current season, sit down, go watch, prepare for mind blow.
Yeah, like, nothing I've said, regardless of how in depth I've said it, prepares you for this season. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form.
It's absolutely insane.
Don't you love trauma?
It's my favorite flavor on a protagonist, dude. I'm telling
trauma is favorite flavor on a protagonist, bruh. Aaron, have you ever seen those anime or those memes where it's like where the character started and where the character is? And you look at Aaron, you can see it. Like, you can really see the progression of that character, and holy crap, man.
And that's the other thing this season's doing really well too. It's showing you more about Aaron's life, like snippets from season 1. Like, we saw how Aaron kind of came up as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed child who was like, I want to be a scout. Like,
Yeah.
You know that story of him, but
Why?
they've done so well at showing you what they think you want to see of Aaron that when they show you flashbacks in the current season of what he actually was like during that time you saw him as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you're like, oh, he's been unhinged
his whole
all
life.
along.
His whole life. Whole life. It's one of those moments where something happens and it has a whole new meaning by the time you get to the end.
Like,
that's what was it? I equate it to, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Go watch the new Spider-Man. You will have a different understanding of what that whole movie was by the time you get to the end of it, because it feels very different when you sit down and you think about it, like, oh, that is what that means. Holy crap.
Yeah. But
it's good.
We're going to leave you guys on that. Start thinking about your lives, listeners. Like, just start thinking about things real quick. It's okay.
It's not okay. Panic.
No panic.
Fucking lose your shit, dude. All of it, bro.
Have one of those
Find
moments.
yourself on YouTube. Watch commercials from the 80s, dude. It's just live, dude. Just live your life.
I'm with
Watch
you.
anime, listen to music, play video games. It's
have a good time. Just have a good time, man.
But anyway, that's gonna be it for the No Motive podcast for today. For today's episode, we're still, it's a lot of growing pains. So if, audio tweaks happen. Some episodes might come out sooner rather than later. Some of them might come out later rather than sooner. But you guys will have the best possible experience as we continue going along. So thank you guys for listening as always. And with that, we're gonna do our outro now. So. My name is Mark. You guys can find me over on all the social medias, Twitch, Twitter, anything else, I guess. And we might even start posting some highlights on TikTok. Who knows? But anyway, we got Chrono, Slap, and Fear. Whoever wants to go first.
I guess I can take it. You can find me over on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. You got Chrono Catastrophe on Twitch and YouTube, and of course, Zen Chronos over on Twitter.
And I've been Slap. You can find me on twitch.tv/slap or at IM_slap on Twitter. And for more of conversations like this, you can catch me like 5 days a week, just doing exactly this, talking bullshit and having a good time. And we've been playing a lot of Pokemon lately, playing through all the Final Fantasies. If you're curious about any of that, we're starting 3 soon. And I think, it's been fun.
Yep, and I'm Fear Parable, and you can find me on Twitter at Fear Parable.
Hell yeah!
I don't have too much going on right now, but maybe that'll change.
But anyway, guys, thank you guys again for listening as always, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of No Motive. Catch you guys later. Peace.